Hello, everybody, and welcome to Couples in Conversation. This is season 3. Super excited that you guys have joined us today. We have some awesome, amazing things in store for you guys for season 3, and you do not want to miss any episode. Before I get into describing the panel and talk about what we're going to talk about today, just to let you guys know, we are now on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Couples in Conversations. And you can also find us on any of the podcast websites. So Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcast, TuneIn, anywhere that podcasts are played, you can find our past episodes. And pretty soon there's going to be some exclusive content there. So you don't want to miss that. So today our topic is help. I love him, but I don't like him. How do we get through this rough patch? So we're going to talk about getting through rough patches, the things that it takes to get through a rough patch. And I am super excited about this episode because I know we're going to have a lot of different opinions and we're going to hear a lot of different stories today. So I'm excited. So before we get started, let me just introduce our panel. My name is Frank. My wife is Jennifer James. We have Fowler Nation, Toylise and Michael. We have Dem Crawfords, Erica and Jonathan. We have Tammy, and then we have Kiera and JJ. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm super excited about season 3, and I just want to jump right into it. So I told you guys before that our topic today is help. I love him, but I don't like him right now. How do we get through this rough patch? So the first question that I want to pose to our panel is it possible when you're in a relationship to love and not like the person? I understand that you can dislike their actions, but I want to very specifically talk about, is it possible to love and not like at the same time? And we're going to start this episode off with Dem Crawfords.
Hey, everybody. So to answer your question, Frank, I don't think it's possible for you to be in a relationship where you just totally dislike the person, but you love them. I get it if it's like a distant cousin or, like somebody like that, you love them. Yeah, but you don't like their ways, so you don't necessarily have to deal with them. I could totally understand something like that. But when it comes to an actual relationship, someone that you have to deal with on a daily basis, like someone you have to communicate with, someone you have to, I just feel like there has to be some kind of, you have to have some kind of, what's the word? You have to have some kind of attraction to this person. And to me, if you dislike them, how can you possibly be attracted to them? How can you possibly be, in sync with that person if you totally just, I can't be with you if I don't like you. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. Babe, what you think?
Well, I'm kind of on the fence because there are times where it may not be me not liking her, it's pretty much her ways or whatever is going on at the time. So there's a lot of times where I don't like her, but I know it's not her, it's her character at the time or something that I dislike. But don't do that. Like right now, she gonna get it now. But it pretty much be whatever is going on at the time where I might not like her, but it's not her that I don't like, is her actions.
So you agree with me? Okay.
No, I'm kind of no, I don't agree with you all the way.
All right, let's head on over to Fowler Nation. What is you guys' take on love but don't like?
I'll go first. So I'm actually in agreement with what Erica Crawford said. I do believe that it's kind of impossible to be in a relationship with somebody that you do not like. There are times where I don't like or care for what my husband may say or do. But for him as a person, I can't imagine honestly saying that I don't like my husband, because at that point, extra bye, because what are we doing here? So to say like and love, for me personally, it's like they go hand in hand. I don't think I can ever say that I can ever have said that I don't like my husband. Now, you know, he has done some things that I just do not like, but him as a person, he cool. Especially today, he cool.
Michael.
I guess I would have to agree with that.
Her.
You can't. I love Twilise, but there are times, yes, when I don't like her.
Not that he don't like me, but he don't like what I did.
I don't want you to twist his words. I want to hear from his voice.
But see what you do and what you say and how you say it is you. So at that point in time, no, I don't like you. Because that is part of your personality. That is who you are. Now, is it something that I'm willing to deal with if it doesn't change? And like, is it something I'm willing to more willing to deal with because I choose to be with you versus somebody who's just like a coworker or a stranger? Yes, because I don't have a higher or more desire to be with or obligation or along those lines. It's both. But yeah, I would have to say that I do believe you can love someone, but I do believe that at times, yes, you do not have to like them.
But overall, you like.
Okay, I want to go over to Tammy, and I know that a lot of times, a lot of you have been asking about our stories and everything, and we're going to get to all that, I promise. Tammy is on our panel, and Tammy is our only divorcee. So Tammy, I want to ask you specifically, in your relationship, because you did decide to dissolve your marriage, did there come a point where dislike started to happen and then the love went away, or was it always like and love until the love was gone, or what did this look like for you guys from your perspective?
First off, I want to say that it is possible to love someone and not like them. I mean, when you think about a marriage and you think about the different seasons that happens in a marriage, it's going to be a time where you don't like that person. And with my marriage, it was a time that I didn't like my husband. I just didn't like him. So when I did not like him, like Erica was saying, like was saying, you're not attracted. I lost all those type of interests because I did not like him at that time. However, do I think, going with what you said, my liking him, I still loved him. I just liked him. So I think it's possible for you to love someone and not like them, because it happened to me. And I'm not going to say that when my marriage dissolved, that means I stopped loving my husband, because to be honest, I still love my husband, but we just came to the conclusion that it's not going to work between us. But I still love him. However, I don't like him too much.
Okay, I have so many questions, but I'm going to save those. I'm going to save those for later. I want to go over to JJ and Kiera. JJ and Kiera are new to our panel. They are in the dating phase, and I think they just celebrated a year, right?
We're almost there. February 15th will be our 1 year anniversary.
Okay, so it's almost a year. I was like, I heard a year or something coming up. So they
it was our date-anniversary year.
Okay, date-anniversary year. Okay, got it. So you guys are not married yet. I assume that you're on that path. Sorry, JJ, I didn't get you in trouble right there. That was not a thing. But what are you guys' thoughts on, in your relationship right now? Have you guys dealt with love and not like? And how do you view that? Is it appropriate, inappropriate? What are your thoughts on that?
I know that we have deal breakers, or like trying to think of the word, but it's like it's in the category of dislike. Because sometimes we are told like, well, when are you gonna put a ring on her? When are you gonna do this and do that for her? And so he's like, I'm still learning about her and she's still learning about me. So we always say like it's something so easy, a pet peeve. It's so easy for us to say like this is a pet peeve and we didn't discuss it and we just jumped into a marriage and jumped into like the relationship really fast. Like we're still evolving and learning like our triggers, our pet peeves, our dislikes, our likes. But we definitely do have love for each other. But there are times when like him and I are very honest about I didn't like how you said that, or I didn't like when you did this. What was bothering you when we was in the car? Can we talk about it? So when it comes to communication, that is something that we're always doing a lot more. That way we can hear each other out because I'm quite sure there are plenty of things I be doing when he's driving and I'm doing it and it could be bothering him or like vice versa. He's driving and I'm, it's vice versa. So it just depends on the situation for sure.
Okay, what about you, Jay?
I mean, it's interesting because I feel like we're still kind of early on in a relationship where I haven't kind of connected like the things that like I might not like about something that she does to her, to Kiera as whole. So it's like so when I feel like there was this thing I didn't like about her, it wasn't like, okay, in this moment I don't like Kiera. And I mean, not that I'm anticipating that happening or anything like that, but like I mean, for me, it's just I haven't really like seen that connection or that correlation yet. I think like I'm thinking about this metaphysically because like when I think about the love like relationship and the way we use those words, it's easy. I know the Crawfords had referenced this. With a family member, there's kind of this obligatory definition role, right? Like that's your family, right? So you love them and you don't necessarily have to like them. Versus a spouse or a partner is more like you chose them, right? And so, in your head, it's like it makes sense. You just if you don't like them, and even if you love them, and there's no like in that relationship, you should leave, right? But I mean, I think kind of we also think about like the idea of when we get married, there's this idea of vows for better or for worse, and all this stuff. And sometimes we kind of let that tie us down. And so, I'm thinking about that as well. Like, we make a commitment to this person. So then does it become obligatory or is it still, you made the choice? And I mean, I see like some people, it's still a choice versus definition. And so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough for me to really like address that because I don't feel like there's been things like, yeah, like we have pet peeves and stuff like that. And yeah, definitely deal breakers. And we talk about those things openly, but I don't think I've correlated like this is something I don't like about you, and in this moment I don't like you. So.
Got it. Okay. What are your thoughts, babe? I know I'm extremely likable, so.
Yeah, okay, we're just skip over that. I think that, like Tammy, it is possible to love someone but not like them. But if you think about it, 99% of that time when you don't like them, it's a behavioral thing and it's not necessarily the person as a whole, but sometimes it becomes so overwhelming or it's so many different things that you don't like or don't like in the moment that you correlate it to the entire person. And so you feel like you don't like them in this moment. Like there's been times where I felt like I did not like my husband, but then when I really processed what was happening, I didn't like what he did, or I didn't like how he reacted in the situation or different things like that. So it wasn't necessarily him as a whole, but because you continue to do it, now I'm correlating it. I don't like you. Just give me some space. So I think that it is possible. And kind of going back to what JJ was saying, how the family versus the family you chose and the family you were born into, it doesn't necessarily change the categories. If you cannot like a family member, you cannot like someone that you chose to be in a relationship with. But being a mature person and desiring someone or choosing a relationship, you also need to choose to fight for that relationship. I don't like you in this moment, let's talk it out, because most times we can come to a conclusion if we just discuss it, but a lot of times we just hold it in and then it just continues to fester or get bigger.
Thanks, babe. I would have to say I'm struggling. I'm struggling with the notion that you can love and dislike somebody at the same time, specifically a spouse. And the reason why I am struggling with that is even hearing what you guys are saying, everybody that is for it, it all to me sounds like you dislike something that happened. You dislike something that, an occurrence of something, not you disliked the person as a whole. Because in my mind, when you dislike a person, what is the point? Like, there's not even a point for us to even engage in any kind of anything if I dislike you, the person. Now, I do believe in relationships because we are different people. The entire life tenure of your relationship, you are always learning and you are growing. And if you're not learning and growing, your relationship is dying. Okay, period. I want to put that out there. If you are not learning each other constantly, you could have been married for 1 year or 10 years. But if you're not learning and growing together, your relationship is dying. And I cannot constitute in my mind that I can love and not like. For me, it doesn't work at all. I saw Toylise, I saw Tammy first, I saw Toylise, and then I saw Jennifer. So go ahead, Tammy, and then Erica.
Frank, I have a question for you.
Yes.
When you not think speaking of spouses, but just in general, what causes you to dislike anyone? It gotta be some type of behavior, right? Like if you dislike anyone, I mean, it's a reason why you dislike them. And it could be typically it's continued behaviors that you see from that person that causes you to dislike them. So I'm asking you because I believe you stated something of this sense, you cannot love and dislike anyone at the same time. Because how can you, if you don't like somebody, you don't like somebody, but what causes you not to like that person? What causes you not to like anyone?
So my comment was very specific to a spouse, right? So when I'm thinking about like a coworker or somebody else in the world, if they do something, you're absolutely 100% accurate. If their actions don't line up with who I am and what I want to do and what I want to be around, yes, I do dislike them and I don't have to deal with them. Somebody that I have chosen to spend my life with, disliking them is not on the table. They're going to do things that I disagree with. They're going to do things that I don't like, but it's not them, the person, it's the action. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. But what if the person, of course, going into marriage, you're liking that person, but everyone changes. And everyone makes decisions. And we all know this marriage thing is not easy breezy. It's not picture perfect. And if someone continues to do the same behavior that you don't like, you're going to turn that disliking that behavior into disliking that person. Because you're going to say, if you're continuously doing the same thing that we've talked about, that you may have promised me that you never would do again, and you're continuously doing this behavior, of course, I'm going to end up disliking you as a person.
Yeah, but see,
that's possible. And I made the choice and the decision to be with you. But guess what? I didn't know 13 years down the line you was going to still be doing the same stuff you was doing 2 years ago. You know, you understand what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying. And Twillies, get ready. I'm coming to you. I get what you're saying completely. And I do think that repeated actions can lead to that dislike. And I can see how that can work. But for me, we're not going to make it to that where I dislike you phase. Because again, like I have stated, you have got to create a space in your home that communication is open, fluid, and it's honest, right? So for example, Jennifer's idea of what I was supposed to do as a husband, what the man was supposed to do, and what my idea of what I was supposed to do were very, very, very different in the early parts of our marriage. And that caused a lot of friction between us, because I'm like, you want me to go out here and build this house. Your father was a carpenter. I'm not a carpenter. I'm a leader. I run stuff. He do stuff, I run stuff. So that, in my mind, I felt like she disliked me, but it wasn't that she disliked me. She disliked the idea of what I was presenting. And when we talked about that, it was very specific to it was specific to something that was happening and not me as a person. So that's kind of how I differentiate, but I totally understand what you're saying. Go ahead, Twilys.
You don't want to phone?
I just wanted to add, that I definitely agree with what you are saying, man. And I have an example. But I still stand firm on there is no way that I can stay in a relationship, whether it's with my husband or anybody, that I don't like. And that's because my actions are going to start to reflect the feelings that I have about you, which is I don't like you. And I'm not going to even be able to it's not going to be necessary for me to say I don't like you, because my actions are going to show that. But one of the examples, my husband, and he is an amazing provider. If he don't do anything else, he takes care of his family. However, when he is in a position where he feels like he is not adequately providing for his family, he goes to this dark place. And we don't like that Michael, because that Michael sucks. But that is, come back in the camera so they can see who I'm on. But that is an example of something that a characteristic of his that I do not like. But that does not make me dislike him as a person. That's just an aspect of him that I don't care for, because at the end of the day, no matter how inadequate you may feel, we are still we're still taken care of. We're still provided for. We are still happy, and we have everything that we need. Now, if he was to do this over and over and over again, we would definitely have to have a serious conversation. And I would tell him, honey, now listen, you're pushing me to a place where I'm really starting to not like you. And once I start not liking you, then that's when you're really going to have a problem, because it may be hit the bricks time.
Thank you, Reclaiming. Go ahead, Jennifer, and then Erica.
I honestly think that we're all saying the same thing. I think we're just all in different stages of the situation. So we all agree that you can dislike someone's behavior. So, and we're saying, the people who are saying that you can dislike a person, we're saying that on some level, in some relationships, it can be a repeated behavior, and it causes me to now move from, I don't like the behavior, now I'm starting to not like you. But everyone agrees that they're going to fight for their relationship. So if you're going down that road, there may be a period of, I still love you, we're still in a relationship, but I don't like you. And I have come to you and talked to you and told you that I'm getting to this place, but you're still not doing anything about it. So now we have to discuss, can we work on it, or do we need to disperse? And so everyone agrees that this is possible to an extent, but that's not relevant to their current relationship.
Yeah, great. Go ahead, E.
I feel like Jennifer basically just summed up exactly what I was thinking, because I feel like everyone was taking what I was saying to me exactly what it just says. But no, it's always about someone's characteristics or someone's behavior. And my thing is, if I have to deal with someone who has a behavior problem that is not going to work well with me as a person, then I cannot deal with that person, because like Twilys said, my actions will start to show. I ain't even got to tell you I don't like you. And everybody on this call know me other than Johnny and Kira. and everybody know me and they know how I can get. So my actions will totally show you that I don't like you. Yes, there is plenty of times where I do not like Jonathan. There's plenty of times where I do not like him. Last week is a clear and present example. I didn't talk to Jonathan for 3 days, okay? Because of a situation that happened, and it was all, a misunderstanding. However, I did not like him at that point. For 3 days, I did not talk to him at that point, and I had to allow myself to calm down before I could even say anything to him, because that's just how upset I was. I did not like him at that point. However, he did not do anything that would constitute me saying, I'm going to leave. I don't like him. Like, no, I love him. There's attributes and aspects of him that I love very much, and that wasn't going to hinder the relationship. But at the same time, like I said, if it was something that was continued, that he never changed and didn't grow up, we probably wouldn't even be sitting here having this conversation right now. So I just don't think that you could put them both in the same category like that.
And I didn't do nothing anyway.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michael.
And I just want to say that, Frank, you said about creating that atmosphere of openness and honesty, and that is all good. But if the other partner is not willing to speak to you in that openness, then it's for naught. I mean, you can think that you're open and creating that space for opportunity and, real conversation. But if the person is not taking advantage of it because they may not like you at that point in time, I mean, what do you do then? You just be like, listen, I love you, and I'll just let you take the next 3 days to cool off, and you'll be all right.
Because you be acting like you don't care, and that's where the pettiness come in, and that's why people get hurt.
You'll be all right.
All right, Jonathan, was that your hand? Okay, so we have made it to the point in our episode where I am going to ask a rapid fire question. So I would love all of our panelists to take 30 seconds to respond to this rapid fire question. So it is usually said, most times when you hear people talking about relationships, people always say, if you ain't got love, you ain't got nothing. And you need love for any relationship to last. What I am hearing is love is on the same level as like. So the rapid fire question is love and like weighed evenly in a relationship? Are they different? Is one greater than the other? What are your thoughts? And we're going to start off with Fowler Nation. 30 seconds, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, so 30 seconds. Number one, no. Love and like are not weighed equally, because in the beginning of Michael and I liked him. I didn't love him. I liked him, and I knew that we would eventually get to the point of love. So they are most definitely not the same. And as far as if you don't have love, you have nothing. I don't know if 100%. I mean, I'm like 90% on board with that one, because there are other aspects of the relationship that build that relationship. Yes, love is a very important piece, but you have several other pieces to that puzzle. You can't just present a puzzle with one piece. There are a bunch of pieces that's going to put that puzzle together, and love is just one of them.
Thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
That is totally not true. Excuse me, Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it? Ain't got to do with nothing. I'm just
what are you saying by that?
Because you can love the person, but if you can't get a high whoop every single day, they ain't got nothing to do.
That's why I said it's a piece.
If you got that right. You got that right. You can have all the love in the world, but that love don't just make a marriage. And it surely don't make a relationship.
So he agrees with his wife.
I agree with my wife.
Reclaim his time.
I'm not reclaiming nothing.
Thank you, Michael. Reclaiming your time. Kiera?
Oh my God. Y'all are funny. I have to agree. You can start off a relationship with liking the person, and then you can eventually love them. But if I could be totally honest, not if, but I look at past relationships, not my own, but like older relationships, like our grandparents' relationships. A lot of them got married because they wanted to move out of the home. They wanted the benefits of marriage. So they left their parents' home to get married to someone they didn't necessarily like or love. And I think when my generation, we look at that, we're like, we don't want to marry someone for the benefits. We don't want to marry someone just say that we're moving out. I think we, in a point, develop a sense of independence and a sense of self identity. So I have learned how I want to be loved. So I have started to show myself how I want to love myself, how I want to be treated with love and in love. That way I don't have to tell someone how to love me because I already know how I am loving on myself. So I think it honestly goes back to yourself. How you are going to treat yourself is how someone is going to treat you back. But if you just have, and I'm not like saying this is like within this group, I'm just saying in general, like if you don't set the tone or boundaries of what you're hoping for, more than likely they're not going to respect or show you the love that you want.
Agree. JB?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that love and like, they're not weighted the same. However, liking someone is definitely weighted heavily. Um, Toy made a really good point. There are so many other elements that go into the love like thing, like communication and the way we talk about it. Because I know in a previous relationship, I loved that person and we had communication. Well, we had the space, right? They would talk, I would talk, but we wasn't listening to each other. You know what I'm saying? So like the rules of engagement when it comes to communication play a huge role in that, because you can say communication all day and we'll do that. Like, here's the space, say what you got to say. And but if it's not, what I'm saying? And so that grew, like it became toxic. So when I left that relationship, I still love that person, just like Tammy said earlier. We still love that person, but like is heavily weighted, it's weighted just as heavy. You know what I'm saying? Not probably not as much as love, but it's definitely weighted just as heavy. So
Okay, Tammy?
I feel like trumps love at this point in my life. Now, if you would ask me before I got married, I would have said love outweighs like. But I think it's important for us to know that if you don't like someone, like love is just like the topping on the cake. Like if I don't like someone, it's not going to be good every day living with them, because like Toylise and Erica said, my actions are going to show that I dislike you. So I think the first thing, and I think this is where a lot of people may struggle with marriages or getting married. They know this person in and out. They know the things they dislike, and they still move on even with all those things in place, thinking that marriage is going to change those things and thinking, oh, we love each other so we can get through this. No, you need to like somebody first. You need to know I'm not going to say everything because it's hard to know everything about a person, but you really need to be able to genuinely like that person, the way they move, how they react towards your kids, how they interact with you just have to overall like someone before you go into saying, I'm marrying them or even loving them. Now, when you like someone, you genuinely like someone and that love comes, baby, that's where the fireworks come. But I think likability trumps love. And I won't get married again unless I just truly like that person.
Okay, heading over to them Crawfords.
I have to agree with Tammy. I feel like love is, I mean, we're made to love. So that it's like love is a given. But if I just don't like your characteristics or anything like that, it's impossible for me to have a relationship with you. I mean, I love everybody, I mean, I even love Donald Trump. But at the same time, like I have to you know, in order for me to be in a relationship with you, there has to be things about you that pulls in, like I said, that attraction earlier. Like I think there are two different things, and like definitely it definitely trumps loving somebody, because like I said, love, I mean, it's, to me, love should be automatic anyway. But in order for me to have an actual, you know, relationship with somebody, and then there's other, you know, factors that play in there outside of just love, is not the only thing that make a marriage work. It's way more than that. Like it, and I feel like early on, like Tammy said early on, yes, I feel like we all did. We married because we were in love. But trust and believe, we learned that there is so many other things besides love that actually makes a marriage work. And so I'm glad we're still on that journey, but it's a lot other than love, trust and believe. So everybody talking about you ain't got love, you need a lot more than that. So hold on, pump your brakes. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Jonathan.
I actually, when I started with Erica, I didn't like Erica. I started off with straight love. When I first saw Erica, I was in love, but I didn't like her. I didn't like Erica at all until the day her and Tolise stalked me, riding around on their bikes. But I didn't like Erica, but I loved her, and I knew that Erica was going to be my wife, and I didn't even know her, but I didn't like her. I guess it was a characteristic of hers that I didn't like, that I thought that I didn't like, but I was in love with her. So I had to learn to like her. And I would tell her all the time, like, I love you, but I don't like you. And I told her that for years. I love you, but I don't like you. And I had to go to like, okay, now I think I do like her now. I still love her, but now I think I do like her. So it was kind of backwards for me. But to me, it's almost on the same line. Now that I done got to like her, I think love and like is pretty much, to me, like a balance.
Okay, go ahead, babe.
I would have to agree with everyone. You need both. I can't really say that I put like or love above each other. They're both heavily needed along with other components of because I mean love doesn't pay the bills all the time. It doesn't soothe everything. I mean it can bring you together, but there's so many other elements that play into it, and most people don't tell you before you get into marriage, and you go and dig it.
We're gonna have Jennifer work on her connection. Something's happening with her connection, so we're gonna get that going. But so for me, I believe that love and like they kind of go hand in hand. I don't believe that they can exist outside of one another. I think that they have to kind of be together. They have to flow fluidly, and they have to be intertwined in order for you to get to a good place in your relationship. That's my thoughts. But I want to get to this since we are getting to the end of our episode. How do we get through this rough patch? And I want to go to them Crawfords because they just shared that Erica didn't talk to Jonathan for 3 days last week, which I completely disagree with. I do not like that silent treatment. I don't like it at all. But what would you say, you know, now that those 3 days have passed and you guys are on the other side of it, what would you say to a couple that was dealing with that same situation? What did you learn from that? And how do you help another couple? What do you say to a couple that is having an issue getting through a rough patch?
So going back, I do think that maybe, at least for me, and I'll speak for me and then my experience with the situation, I think I should have just went to Jonathan and actually had a conversation. It was, you know, it was very small, you know, or, you know, to me it was huge, but it was something he didn't think about. And while our son is 19 years old, I still, think about, his safety and well-doing and things like that. Whereas Jonathan is trying to, he's a man now. He needs to do this, he needs to do that. So it was just a very small situation. And I felt like if I would have actually just had a conversation instead of, just completely going off, and I went off in a text message. So there is no tone, there is nothing in text.
Not true.
So when you read, no, what I'm saying, there is, when you read the text message, it can come off very, when you're reading anything, email or text, it just comes off negatively.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, and I totally went off. I'm not even going to lie. But I feel like if I would have just actually had a conversation with him instead of being the ultimate petty that I can be, which is I told him to leave me alone and I didn't say anything to him. But I felt like he should have came to me, because if he knew he did not do anything wrong, then you should have come to me and tried to address the situation. But instead, you left me alone. So I guess I wasn't satisfied, because I felt like I told him to leave me alone, but he ain't come and say anything to me. So I didn't talk to him for 3 days.
So just to make sure that I understand, you requested him to do something, he did it, and you didn't like what he requested. I just want to make sure I got this right.
No, you got that absolutely correct, because I feel like he should have still came to me to, say, well, hey, it wasn't that big of a deal. Let's talk this out. No. So so he actually did break the ice, though, by asking me to play board games and have mimosas. But I feel like you miss me. If you just miss me, just say that, or start actually having a conversation. But I think that was a good way to break the ice for us to actually get back to start talking to each other.
It's because I knew that it was pointless. I let it go on longer than it should have, because I knew it was pointless, and I knew that eventually she was going to kick herself in the butt over the whole thing. But I didn't want her to do that to herself. So yeah, I broke the ice so we can be back. We can be back cool. But at the same time, if you tell me to leave you alone, I'm cool with it. So you can be in there. I'm gonna be in here. I'll go downstairs. I'll work out. I'll do this and I'll do that, and I'll do just that and leave you alone. I have no problem leaving you alone as long as we still in the same house. I'm upstairs, she downstairs, or wherever it is. I'm cool with that. I'm not out in the street. She not out in the street. So I ain't got no problem with us solving our issue that way.
Okay. I want to go over to Jennifer really quick. What do you say to a couple that's going through a rough patch? What kind of advice do you give them? What do you say to them when they're going through a rough patch?
To hang in there, really. I mean, it's not really much you can say, because you never know what's really happening within the relationship, and you don't know what's filtering through it, because it could be things from past history that they didn't necessarily work out. But I would say hang in there, communicate, and going back to what we've always talked about, creating that space. Because if you guys are having a rough patch, there's obviously a communication issue there. There's something you guys haven't discussed. You haven't been completely honest with how you feel about a situation or something that you're going through. And you need to also be aware of yourself. Is it the situation? Like, is it the relationship? Or is it something that you're dealing with personally and you're filtering it into the relationship? And so there's nothing that your partner can do to make it better. And so it's just continuing the cycle.
All right, Tammy, I want to go to you, and I want you to speak from this perspective. If you, looking back to Tammy, when Tammy you were still in your marriage and you were thriving, you were thriving, and once you started edging on the edge of dislike and dissolve, what would you say to your married self on the brink of divorce to encourage you, or to give you insight on how to get through that rough patch? What would you say to you?
What I would say to me is communicate first, in which I think we did that. But I think the next thing I would tell myself is to be patient. Allow yourself to heal, allow yourself to forgive, allow yourself to allow that other person to change, or to prove that they are someone different, or that they have changed. I think in my marriage, I was just to a point that I was fed up. and I made an impulsive decision. I'm tired. I don't believe that he will change, so I'm walking away. I didn't have that patience to actually sit there. Although he, he told me several times, I'm not that person anymore. I did not have the patience to sit there and see the change. And he didn't have the patience to allow me to heal. So I think patience is important, and I also think prayer is important. You got to be patient and you got to pray. What I don't think is healthy is for you to continuously communicate about these things, because to me, once you communicate about them, there's no need to communicate every day about them because it becomes frustrating. So once you communicate about it, you know how that person feel, you know how each other feel. You need to give each other that space to heal, forgive, and to move on. So I think patience and prayer is what I would have told myself to do at that point, because I probably didn't stay in my marriage with worse things that happened when we divorced. But I was just to a point where I was fed up. And because I was fed up, I made very impulsive decisions. And those impulsive decisions, and he made impulsive decisions as well because he was hurt and he was angry. But I think if we would have had some patience, gave each other some space, and allowed each other to heal and forgive at our own time, then we would still be in our marriage.
Okay. Okay. Um, Follow Nation, are you guys here?
Yeah.
What advice would you guys give to a couple that is going through a rough patch to help them get through it?
Hold on.
You hung up.
No, not that. There. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So what I would say, pretty much agreeing with what Tammy said, when you're patient, in my opinion, is the key of getting through a rough patch. Because when you're at odds with your significant other, with your spouse, you have to be willing to fight. And sometimes that fight can take a while. It can, honey, it's okay. Sometimes that fight, you got to go. Sometimes you got to go 29 rounds. And those 29 rounds takes patience and most definitely prayer. I agree 110% with everything that Tammy has said, because when you are in a rough patch, it's easy to say, you know what, bump this. I'm good on all this. And, better luck next time. But you have to be patient and willing.
And also, when going through the rough patch, you do have to know your partner. You gotta understand that sometimes, Charlize is gonna need to steam off sometimes. Erica, took those 3 days off because that's what she needed. Jonathan allowed her to take those 3 days off, but he knows his wife to the point where he knows how to break the ice. When it's time that, okay, it's long enough it's long enough for you to stop talking to me. Let's do something now. So those moments are needed because you're trying to make yourself one. You've been living with this person day in and day out. I mean, if you can take breaks from your coworkers, you surely need to take a break from your spouse sometimes. And it's not to say that you don't love your spouse, but sometimes things just get heated and emotional, and sometimes you need to take a breather. I need to go out and walk. Don't bother me. When I come in the house, if I want to sleep on the couch, I will. Just because you don't want me to sleep in the bed don't mean I'm not. I paid for that bed. That bed is half mine.
Boy, bye.
I will go ahead and sleep in the living room when I want to. But when it's time for me to get in my bed, I ain't got to touch you. I ain't got to speak to you.
You ain't going to get no sleep.
I am going to get some sleep. You ain't going to get no rest. Because that's my pillow. You ain't going to get no rest.
I'm reclaiming y'all time. Thank you. JJ, what are your thoughts?
Definitely do. So first off, let me start off by saying the key to my heart is mimosas. So anytime anybody want to bring me some mimosas, if I'm pissed off at you and I don't like you, just give me a mimosa for sure. In the brunch. But yeah, no, I definitely think that what I've heard, everything sounds good. Again, like communication can't survive on its own because like I said, like if if you and your spouse or you and your partner are not on the same page about what communication means and what's the rules of engagement and communication, it's still not working. Like that's what I said. Like in my former relationship, we held that space. You know what I'm saying? Like they got to say what they say, and I'll just sit there and on my Kevin Hart, are you done? Are you done? You know what I'm saying? And then I say what I had to say, but we're not listening to each other. You know what I'm saying? But we're being respectful of that space. And so like I think another thing is with that, with the patience, with the prayer, I think another thing is that you just really have to analyze the value of one of those likes and dislikes and of that relationship as a whole. Like I have a nut allergy. If Kiera wants to keep making peanut butter sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every week or every day, I gotta analyze like what is the benefit there. Like, she knows that that's hurtful to me, right? Or like um yeah, how am I analyzing these situations? Because what might seem like super small to me might not be as small to my partner, and I need to be able to understand that and analyze that. Like, okay, maybe I could have done this better, or maybe they could have done this better, and how do we build on that? And so but if I feel like, like as I analyze that like it's still trivial to me and they're not willing to get over that hump, then maybe at that point I do need to start reanalyzing the value of the relationship as a whole. And so
Agreed. I want to come to you, Kiera, but I wanted to go to some breaking news because it looked like Erica and Jonathan had a little breakthrough up there. It looked like a breakthrough occurred when JJ was talking. So real quick, let me go up there to them Crawfords. Y'all good over there?
No, we good. We good. We just taking it all in. We taking it all in.
He dropped some real bombs. Is what he did. And I'm just hoping that somebody just listening. That's all.
All right, Kiera.
Yeah, I just have to agree with everyone. It depends on your relationship with your partner or your spouse. In addition to knowing what technique works for you and your partner or your spouse. Like if you have to go to like a third party, like a therapist, so so that way the therapist can have like an unbiased decision on who's right and who's wrong, but to put both in the room to hear each other out, then you do that. If you are opposed to therapy, pray. You're opposed to praying, talk. So it just depends on like what could be beneficial to save your marriage, save your relationship. And if you just don't see that it's worth fixing and there's no type of habits being like there's no like the habits are still consistent, they're not changing, then you have to make that decision. Like, is this worth trying to be patient for to save it, or is it worth providing resources for, or is it just worth leaving? So I think it just depends on like the individual. But overall, like I said, JJ and I, like, we're still very new in our relationship. We haven't gone through like hurdles like that. Like I said earlier, we pretty much just are going through like deal breakers. So as far as what can be done, you have to find that rhythm of techniques that will be helpful.
So what I wanted to say, and I'm coming to you, Jennifer, and then Tammy, what I want to say about, giving advice to people that are going through a rough patch. If you have watched any episode or any season of Couples in Conversation, there is one analogy that I use often and I hold true to it. When you're in a relationship, you have to be in the ring together with your partner. And you have to understand that this person is your partner and not your opponent. Usually, when you are going through a rough patch, either somebody is not in the ring or you are both in the ring as opponents instead of partners. And the first thing that you really need to do is identify, hey, it's not me against you, it's us against the world. And you have to make that distinction, and you have to recognize we're not fighting in here. This is where we come and we battle it out, in a safe way. But we're not here and throwing blows like we would people out on the street. This is an environment where we fight together, not as opposers. We're on the same team. So I just want to throw that out there. Stay in the ring with your partner. Go ahead, Jennifer, and then Tammy.
I'm actually just going to answer your question again because I was kind of thrown off when you asked me. But so what I would say to someone is it's like 7 points that I would kind of talk to them through. So I would tell them to assess their readiness. A lot of times we want to hash out or go and fight through the rough patch, but we're really not ready. And we go in and we're fighting unfair. We're hitting below the belt. We're talking from a hurt place, and we're not really ready to address the issues at hand. So I think that you really need to assess that. And then also you need to go in with the mindset of forgiveness. There may be things that you guys discuss that you're going to need to ask for forgiveness and provide forgiveness to that partner. And if you're not ready to do that, then maybe it's not time for you guys to re-engage. Like take that 3 days like Erica and Jonathan had did. And then also be realistic about the conversation or the relationship in this period of time. That goes back to what Tammy was talking about being patient. Like you can't implement rules and think that they're just going to stick to them tomorrow. You can't do that, and you can't require that of your partner. And if you have that expectation, you're going to end up prolonging this process of unhappiness or of a rough patch. And then also you need to filter through sometimes what your partner is saying. Just because you're ready to have the conversation, your partner may not be. And so they may be saying some things that are very hurtful, and it's not their character. And that goes back to us feeling like we don't like our partner or we don't like the person. It's not them. It's just the place, the mindset that they're in at that moment, or their particular behavior, and you have to learn how to filter through that. And you have to make sure that you're aligning yourself with you. So going back to what Kiera said about that self-love, like aligning yourself with you and aligning yourself with God and how he would want you to operate within this relationship, and how he would view this conversation or whatever is happening. And then remember the goal of the relationship. Is the goal to be able to die together and to grow every day, and knowing with growth, there's going to come some stumbling blocks. So is this just a stumbling block that you guys need to work through, or is this the end of the course? And then trade perspectives with your partner. We all have our own perspective because of our background or because of something that we're going through. They come to the relationship with a different perspective as well. And so if you're just in the room letting them speak, but you don't really hear what they're saying and hear from their side, you're never going to accomplish the whole point of you guys coming together. And then lastly, being engaged, being vulnerable, being honest, and putting yourself out there. If you're married to this person, or if you're dating with the hopes of getting married, you have to be willing to provide your whole self. And although it's going to be difficult, although you may get hurt, in order to have a solid relationship, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and commit to the transition of this relationship.
Dropping gems. Go ahead, Tammy.
Just giving kudos to Jennifer. That was real therapy, like, okay? But talking about therapy and going to a counselor, make sure before anyone decides to go to counseling that you know exactly what counseling entails of, and you know exactly what the counselor job is. Because me and my husband, we attempted couples counseling, and he chose the counselor. This is someone he worked with himself with one-on-one. He loved this lady, okay? We went to couples counseling. That second session, he was totally pissed because the counselor didn't agree with what he was saying, and ended up not scheduling another appointment. That was our last time going to counseling. And he was not willing to go back. So, counseling is a good thing. Therapy is a good thing, but I just wanted to put out there, make sure before you go each of you understand what a counselor role is. It's not a counselor role is not to tell you you're right, you're wrong. So just make sure you understand that, or it's not going to work. And being in a ring, being partners instead of opponents, that's easier said than done when you're at odds with someone and you dislike them.
Well, sure, it's
Everything you say,
easier.
everything you say sound real good. But when it comes to them real life experiences, when you caught up in the middle of that, I don't think that stuff worked too well.
Sure, it's easier said than done, but I would have to rebut you and say, how bad do you want this? Because if you want this bad enough, and if you have decided that you are in it till death, then is it easier said than done? Absolutely. Even our walk with Christ, staying righteous, staying holy, that's way easier said than done. But you have to make decisions that line up with what you have decided to commit to. So sure,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
difficult.
that's true, but we're all human. And
Yeah,
guess what?
absolutely.
When you're not liking someone and you're in the ring with that person, my not liking you is going to show. So
And,
that's all.
and, and
Maybe you shouldn't get in that ring unless you're healed and at a good place to be in that ring
yeah, at the end
and
of the day,
ready for engagement,
at the end
like
of
your
the
wife said.
day, you have to be ready to do your work. If you are not ready to do your work, it is a moot point and you are not going to get anywhere. You have to be ready to do that work. And part of doing that work is being introspective. You got to look inside of you. You got to see what it is that you are, there are some great things about you. There are some things that you do well. And there are some challenges that you have. And you have to be honest both with yourself and honest with your partner and the person that you're dating and the person that you're courting and say, this is a place where I am not at my best. I don't function well here. And you got to be vulnerable enough to say that. You got to say it and you have to be honest about it because, again, your spouse, your partner can't cover what you don't expose. So if I don't tell you this is an area that I'm weak in this area, there's nothing that they can do for you. So I totally agree with you, but you got to be ready to do your work. I am so excited for this episode. I really think we did some great work here. Getting through rough patches is difficult, and I just wanted to give you guys a news flash. I don't know where this idea that relationships are all peaches and cream and roses and strawberry lollipops, because it's not true. It is work. It's hard work. And not only is it hard work, it's continuous work. And the reason why it's so much work is because you have to do both work inside yourself and work inside your relationship. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning into one of our episodes, please do us a favor, like, comment, and subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Couples in Conversations. You can find us on all podcast websites at Couples in Conversations. And until next time, please remember that communication is everything. We'll see you next time with Couples in Conversations.